What's going on, guys? My name is Caleb and I live in Japan. Now, before I moved here and learned how to speak Japanese, I used to see all these trailers of awesome looking new Japanese games or for extended or special editions of games I already owned and loved. Kingdom Hearts and Final Mix. Now, I'm sure you said to your friends after seeing a trailer like this more than once, damn, I really hope that gets a US release. Sometimes they do, but most of the time we're not so lucky and you either never get it or it comes out after so many years that your excitement for the game has fizzled. Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. Always thought that maybe if I could get a closer look at this game than just the 2-minute trailer, if I knew if it was actually even any fun, if somebody would tell me what the f was going on, I would know whether to hold out some hope or even try and import the game. Well, guys and girls, I've taken it upon myself to provide you with just that kind of information. Welcome to the very first episode of Rainfall Revew. In each episode I'll play and review a Japanese title, some of them old, others new, all for a variety of different consoles. I'll tell you how it stacks up in terms of presentation, narrative, and gameplay, and additionally I'll inform you of the level of Japanese proficiency or knowledge required to enjoy. Now that the intro's all done, let's, one, never do that again, and two, get right into the review. I'm going to be kicking off the show with a review of Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment, in case you couldn't tell by the title. Spoiler warning, this game contains spoilers for the anime Sword Art Online up to episode 14, which is the last episode. You cannot tell me anything otherwise. Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment takes place in an alternate timeline apart from the SAO anime, where our heroes, after defeating Akihiko Kayaba for some strange reason, never made it outside of SAO. Chalking it up to Kayaba lying to them about the terms of exiting the game early, they are now forced to complete the remaining 25 floors in order to escape. This section of the story is mainly a rehashing of the previous PSP game, Infinity Moment. You begin the game, for some unexplained reason, teleporting into the newly discovered Hollow area. This is where you meet one of the game's new characters, Freya, who immediately tries to kill you. There's some talk about her being an orange player, meaning she's killed someone or wronged someone at some point, but as she is suffering from memory loss, yay, amnesia story threads! A quick conversation and a tutorial fight see the potentially interesting plot points swept under the rug for the bulk of the game. A few other characters make their way into the world of SAO for seemingly no other reason than to give you more romance options. It just glosses over the introduction of the two characters Leafa and Shinon, both of whom are from different MMOs they explore in later light novels. Literally, in a flashback exposition after completing the tutorial, you just find Leafa standing in a forest somewhere and she's all like, "Hey there, I'm Kirito's little sister, don't mind me, I'm just here to create some awkward incestuous sexual tension." And the same cutscene, I swear to God, Shinon just falls from some random unexplained rift in the sky. We should have a name for that. What's a good name for that? Deus Ex Booty Call. Fair enough. I can appreciate that they wanted these characters in the story again, but at the same time I feel like they could have done a better job than just shoehorning them in by reusing cutscenes from the previous game. Oh, what's that? I didn't say? Oh yeah, they do it by reusing cutscenes from the previous game. But on the bright side, it does get much better from here. Now, perhaps I have the mental disposition of a 3-year-old and I get just uncontrollably excited by any really colorful media, but having just come from the last console generation steeped in, was it saturated grays and browns, any game with the balls to pull out the crayons and go to town gets a gold star in my book. One of the main ways you're presented the story and fed character development is through inter-character conversations where each person is represented by their own mostly still anime rendition. If you've ever played a game in the Persona series, you'll feel right at home with this kind of exposition. The character drawings themselves are detailed and beautiful to look at, and each of them have a few different postures and a variety of different facial expressions. Definitely helps the game keep its anime feel throughout. It should also be noted that the entire Japanese voice cast of the anime reprise their individual role, which is awesome. The world of Sword Art Online, or Aincrad, feels really populated. The main hub city is full of NPC vendors and quest givers standing around looking busy. There is no shortage of player characters walking from shop to shop, having a meal at a cafe, or making small talk by a water feature. Fake players standing around and pretending to talk is all well and good, but when you step out into the field it gets even better. Most everywhere you go, you're going to come across other player parties grinding it out, running from one enemy mob to the next as they respawn, trying to level up. You can't help but feel some camaraderie as you sit there and kill wasps with them for 30 minutes before moving on. The floors of Aincrad aren't the most expansive, but offer a nice variety of environments and interesting looking enemies. But expansive areas is really where the Hollow area comes in. This is the area of the game that can and should be explored single player, but is open for online co-op play with you and up to 3 of your friends. Divided up into 6 areas, each with their own distinct environments and enemies, as well as some hidden areas ripe for exploration, the Hollow area has no shortage of interesting content to sift through. And with the scenery constantly changing from grassy plains to white sand beaches, even skywalks high above the clouds, all on a day and night cycle, I seldom found myself bored by my surroundings. If I had one gripe about the level design, it's that it sometimes falls into this repetitive grid layout in areas surrounding mini-bosses or dungeons, but, you know, what are you gonna do? There are a bunch of subtle touches in this game that really make it feel like they took the time to make you feel like you're in an MMO and really pay respect to the source material. For instance, when you make a party with someone, you hear the chimes of them pulling up their menus and sending and accepting party requests. There's an MMO-style battle log that you can pull up at any time to see all the actions performed by your party, other nearby players, and even the hostile mobs. At the very beginning of the game, when you go to sleep in your room but have a party member with you, they'll go ahead and excuse themselves for the evening and come back and meet you in the morning. Except with Asuna, Kirito's wife, whom describes her desire to stay just a little longer, and then the screen fades to black and you can hear the two unequipping their armor. And the grayed out logout button at the bottom of your character's main menu, along with countless other little things you probably won't notice right away, just should not go unappreciated. A lot of thought was put into this. That being said, the game does have its fair share of rough moments and glitches. For instance, almost every time I go to take a seat at a cafe, I'll end up just walking into the chair like a dumbass for a few seconds before the action finally fails and I have to try again. There are a few others, but these are by no means game-breaking, just noticeable blemishes. Alright, let's just get this out of the way early. The Japanese in this game is tough. Every character speaks using colloquial Japanese you'd be hard-pressed to find in a dictionary, and there is a lot of it. They of course speak at a natural pace, but there is text for everything spoken. That text, however, is covered in kanji with no furigana. So if you come across a word or a set of kanji you don't know, you either have to catch the pronunciation as they say it, or find some other way to discern the meaning. Akemi.
Yes?
What is shashin no shin to ito and koji no ko smushed together? What's the meaning?
Means crimson.
Crimson. Okay, what's the hatsuon?
Shinku.
Shinku. Alright, thanks baby.
You're welcome.
Akemi! Hollow Fragment at its core is a fast-paced action RPG with Kirito attacking, dodging, and guarding, all in real time. At the bottom of your screen you'll notice 4 prominent gauges. HP, which is green, because of course. Burst, which is yellow. The risk gauge, which is rather small and fairly insignificant, but we'll get to that later. And your SP gauge, which is purple, as well as the health and SP of your chosen party member. All of which you need to keep a close eye on in combat, especially against mini-bosses. Those mini-bosses, I swear to God, you will die more to mini-bosses than anything else. They just chill out there, so unsuspecting. You waltz up getting ready to lay down the law, and the next thing you know, you're getting your internal organs rearranged by some lizard knight who outlevels you by 10 and forces you to draw aggro on every other mob in the area. So yeah, watch those gauges. So your HP is pretty self-explanatory. It hits 0, game over. That's kind of how it goes. But the burst gauge governs your battle actions and is broken up into 5 sections. You can spend it by dashing and attacking, When it runs dry, you can still attack, but the gauge refills much slower. Though they don't consume any burst, it is important to note that you do have two other actions, stun and block. Those should need zero explanation, but for those of you who can't surmise what they do, I'm so sorry you have to make it through life with afflictions such as yours, but just hang in there, man. And for the rest of you, they run on their own cooldown timers, so yeah. You also start with a number of sword skills that can be chained at the end of a combo, or triggered on their own by pressing the right trigger and they're mapped triangle, X, circle, and square? What are they? I forget. Sword skills don't consume your burst. In fact, it recharges as you're performing one. But that does bring us to your SP gauge. The SP gauge governs your sword skills, buffs, and abilities, and is broken into 3 sections. Sword skills normally cost 1 section of the gauge, while each individual ability is assigned its own value, normally consuming less than half a section of the gauge. It does refill by itself over time, but there are abilities and items you have that can refill it completely. But there is another way to manage this resource that we'll get to in a minute. The risk gauge really doesn't seem to do anything. The longer you're in a fight, or if you're being targeted by an enemy, indicated by a red circle on the ground, the more the gauge fills, maxing out at 5. It's supposed to make your burst refill slower, but I honestly don't detect a difference. That being said, you can reduce it back to 0 by attacking, dodging, guarding, or switching at the right moment. What switching? What's that? Glad you asked. But from now on, please hold all questions till the end of the video as not to interrupt the flow of the review. Especially you, Brandon. Switching is a mechanic where you or your party member, depending on who calls for it, immediately takes position from the other, protecting them from damage, drawing aggro, and often following up with a sword skill. It's incredibly useful, but should be used sparingly, as the cooldown's quite long. The game makes good use of the Vita's touchscreen feature by putting the switch button and the, I don't know, what should I call it? It says good. The INE button? The complement command. We'll call it the complement command. That sounds good. So the switch button and the complement command button are placed at the bottom left and right corners of the Vita's front touchscreen. Complementing your allies serves 2 purposes. 1, it builds your relationship together. And 2, it fills about half of one of the sections of your SP gauge. Told you we'd be getting back to that. Now I know what you're thinking, but you're not just going to want to stand there and spam it for days. It really only benefits you when you use it after taking down an enemy, performing an attack together, receiving a healing item, or switching. You know, normal times you'd compliment someone. Now this leads me to another thing I really like about Hollow Fragment's combat. The requests and compliments go both ways. Fighting enemies both big and small, boss or not, your party members will regularly call out for you to stun an enemy, switch in for them, or perform a sword skill together for bonus damage. Lending them hand is not only advantageous as far as the fight's concerned, but it also yields a nice boost to your relationship as they thank and or compliment you. On the subject of party members, there's really no discernible difference. I mean, they have different stats, and some of them hit a little harder than others, and they use a variety of different weapons, a bow in one case, but really you just pick the one you want to pork, and sometimes climb, and as long as you've done the necessary grinding, you shouldn't have any problems. I'm sorry, what was that? What was that? Grinding is like sitting in a bathtub full of lemon juice concentrate whilst giving yourself paper cuts in the webs of your feet and listening to Nickelback? 1, I'm pretty sure you just described the late stages of AIDS. 2, this is a JRPG modeled after an MMO. If you couldn't tell, there's gonna be just a tidbit of grinding in it. Just a little. Just about that much. But if you really couldn't tell, I'm so sorry. Boss fights are actually quite a delight, I found. It begins with you finding the boss room and making the choice whether to take it on just the 2 of you, or to head back into town and come back with a larger party. When it's time to take the floor boss on, you select your party member and are given a number of other player characters from a variety of different guilds to bring along as you teleport back to the boss room. Floor bosses are much more of an event than standard mini-bosses. They're much hardier, they use a variety of AoE attacks marked by either a red cone or a red circle on the floor, and despite there being 8 of you, it still takes a solid 7 to 10 minutes to bring one down. And last we have the dating sim. Calling it a dating sim to begin with is a little generous. I mean, all you do is spend time together by going and fighting enemies, having a coffee date, or standing around and talking about nothing in particular. Literally, the coffee dates consist of the girl, and sometimes Klein, sitting around talking about nothing of consequence with only a little piece of text giving you the main idea of what they're talking about. But this dating sim seems kind of out of place to me anyway. I mean, it takes place right after Kirito and Asuna get back from their 2-week honeymoon to the cabin they bought together, followed by 2 near-death experiences in the floor 75 boss room, almost making it out of SAO where they vowed to find each other and marry in real life and all that lovey-dovey shit. And now Kirito's just all, I'm sorry Asuna, it's just that this is going so fast and I want time to explore other options while I'm still young and really want to find out more about who I am outside of us. And it's not you, you're great. It's just that I'm kind of the shit, and literally every girl here is generating unbearable sexual tension and jonesing for some of Kirito's special sauce. And sometimes Klein. Yeah, I don't see it. But for everyone else, you're free to get a sexy ending with any of the other female party members later in the— Wait a goddamn second! Is that Kirito's sister? Is that a sexy post-coitus photograph of Kirito's little sister? What the fuck? No, just look at it. Just look at this for a minute. Look at that face. Look at the sexily draped sheets. Look at that foot. Look at it. Look at that blonde. That is Lannister blonde. Lannister blonde. But all joking aside, yes, you can nail Kirito's little sister. So if you're into that, congratulations. So that's the long and short of it. I just want to end by saying this game, again, is huge. The main campaign alone is probably about 70 hours, plus the multiplayer, all the different costumes and weapons you have to collect for your entire party. There's just so much to do in this game. I really enjoyed the crap out of Hollow Fragment. But at the end of the day, it is made for people who are already fans of the anime or the light novels, so the fan service and the Easter eggs are going to be lost on anyone else. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and award this game with a rating of Good Luck to the West. I found the world to be very interesting and something I wanted to keep exploring. The combat was fun and engaging, and interacting with your party members was really quite a delight. And there is plenty of fan service here. However, the length of the game can cause the gameplay to get a little repetitive over time for those who aren't used to this style of game. Some of the actions are just plain buggy, and you can f*** Kirito's sister. I rated the game Good Luck to the West, but to be honest, the West really needs no luck. This was announced after I purchased the game and started playing it for review, but it has been announced for a US release this summer sometime, so you don't even have to wait that long. Couple months at this point, I think. So that was the first episode of Rainfall Revew. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go ahead and leave me comments. Let me know what you think. Any constructive criticism is welcome. I'm sure there'll be unconstructive criticism too, and I read it all, so enjoy that. If you guys have any suggestions for future games you want me to review, I am not omniscient. I do not know every Japanese exclusive game out there. I'm sure there's some that would be painfully awful to play and others quite enjoyable, so I'm sure you know more than I do. Let me know. Guys, thanks again for watching. I really can't wait to get started on my second review. This was a lot of fun. A little more work than I was anticipating, but it's a good time. It's the good kind of work. And if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to give it a like. If you want to see more reviews, subscribe. And in the meantime, I guess we're done here. So this game's taught me a variety of new vocabulary words and grammar, but I think my favorite thing that it's taught me so far is a fantastic little phrase called Ohime-sama Dakko. Can I have a kiss? Lannister blonde.